Good morning, campers. Welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood, a Percy Jackson read-along podcast. I am your host, Zach.
And I'm B.
And this week we read Chapter 16 of the Battle of the Labyrinth, I Open a Coffin. And I was really shocked because it wasn't a skeleton.
Yeah. It was, well, I mean, Luke is not a skeleton.
Oh,
right?
I'm sure he's like gangly, skeleton-like. And
He's
I mean,
skeletal.
B, if you really think about it, Luke is really just a skeleton, a sad, sad man with a skeleton inside of him, waiting to burst out like a chest burster.
The skeleton's like, oh man, I'm stuck inside this guy.
Oh man, could I have got like a better person? No? Okay. Though Nico's power would probably be to rip the skeleton right out of Luke.
Oh god. I just imagined that. And anyway, we'll talk about Nico's increasingly creepy death powers in this chapter.
Don't you mean emo boy powers activate?
Yeah, basically. So the coffin, no surprise, was right about it being the sarcophagus featuring Kronos, but the way that that's revealed is a little bit maybe different than I or some of the other people reading this for the first time would assume.
Yes, I think this is one of those, again, there was no setup and payoff for this, though it seemed really weird that, I guess spoilers at this point along, is that Luke was in the coffin. I was like, wait, how'd he get there so fast?
Yeah, right, because we saw him. So I was a little confused about that. Well, I mean, I guess we'll get into exactly what happens in the chapter, but just like the timeline doesn't totally make sense, because last I checked, Luke was in that weird arena trying to make his way through the labyrinth.
Making his way downtown, going down to Camp Half-Blood.
Yeah, and I would walk 1,000 miles if I could just kill you tonight.
If I wanted to give like an explanation for that, and this is probably Rick Riordan probably would say this exact same thing. Well, you're in the labyrinth. Time works differently.
I guess. But like then it would be reverse though, because he was still on like a mission to find the through line from his camp on Mount Tam to Camp Half-Blood, like trying to find that route, and that's why he was in the arena, because he was like, once he surpassed there, then they were able to get through, and then they were going to get to Camp Half-Blood. That's the idea anyway. So I don't really understand. It's sort of like that scene in Emperor's New Groove where they like pull the thing down. They're like, wait, by all accounts, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's kind of like that where I'm like, wait, so he went back to California to be the body that Kronos inhabited? Like, I thought you'd think that would be a process that took a long time, so his body would have to be there.
So I have a theory about this, and to help me explain this, I'm going to pull out Wizard Scientist. Hey guys, it's Wizard Scientist. So I'm going to pull out this diorama. So technically, Percy and the gang, they basically went into the Garden of the Gods, so there was plenty of time for Luke to go back, because time works differently in the maze. If we look at the equilibrium of, I don't even know. Okay, but you see what I mean.
So
like,
he just like sped back there?
Because time works differently, because remember, they were in the maze and they felt like they were only there for hours, but they were there for like 4 days.
Yeah.
So time works a little differently. There's that sense, or maybe it might not even be Luke. It might just be Kronos is taking the appearance of Luke, though it looks like he's just Luke. So who knows?
All right. I don't know if it's a plot hole or if it's just like the weird...
No, I don't think it's a plot hole, because once again, the logic of the maze is when you're in the maze, time works differently.
But time goes slower, technically, right?
No, it goes faster.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. It goes faster. It feels slower, but then you get out and it's been like much longer.
Yeah, because once again, we have the built-in thing where the maze is different, as well as time works differently, because there's the part where they did technically leave the maze, so time in the maze probably sped up. And we know that Daedalus isn't dead, so the maze is still there with all those powers.
Right. Okay, yeah, that does confirm the Daedalus thing, because they were worried that if they had killed him, then it would collapse upon itself, because it's like connected to his life force. It's a whole thing. I don't know.
So why isn't it that basically Chiron should be like, hey, Percy, maybe you should have an assassination mission. You kill that Daedalus, and we'll not deal with that labyrinth anymore.
Is it only later on in this book that we find that out? Because like...
Yes.
Yeah, because otherwise that would have been a much easier quest. I mean, they were looking for Daedalus. They were maybe looking for his help. They weren't looking to murder him, but...
The original mission was supposed to be to get Ariadne String, but that has gone the way of the dodo, so the only option is to kill Daedalus now. That's the only way for them to possibly salvage this problem.
Anyway.
So this chapter kind of opens up with them falling, as we have in most Percy Jackson books now. Percy falls to great gravity. Yes, it's pretty good if you think about it,
This is the second time he's fallen in this book.
Well, the first time was the Gateway Arch. The second time was from a volcano where he broke every bone in his body, but surprisingly survived.
Well, he barely survived, and then he was like on that island for a while with Calypso, and then now...
Surprisingly, this is the very first time that he didn't fall into a body of water, and this is shocking.
That's true. Because this time he swooped with some wings, which is kind of new for him, the whole being in the sky thing.
Well, not really, because there was the last time when they were on Apollo's like special bus of awesomeness.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, but they try to avoid being in the sky for reasons that he explains to Rachel, that they try to avoid Zeus's territory still. Again, doesn't totally make sense. He's still friends with Talia. Like, I don't really understand.
B, he could be like friends with Talia, but remember, it's like the idea of like going to a friend's house of the like boy or girl. Like, you have to keep that door open. This is my house. This is my rules.
Like Hopper and Stranger Things.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I'm keeping an eye.
Hey, door open.
Yeah. Leave the door open 3 inches.
You see what I mean, right?
I kind of get it. It's just... It made sense in the first book that Zeus had a thing against Percy, because it was like a misunderstanding and he like blamed him for stealing the bolt and blah, 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 blah.
It also adds that Percy Jackson doesn't just have to take a plane. He'll be in like Los Angeles in 8 hours.
Right, that's true. I guess it's like an intentional Rick Riordan thing of being like, oh, maybe travel will be more difficult and therefore more interesting if he can't take a plane, which I guess makes sense. Also, it doesn't even matter that they can't take a plane, because if... They don't even have time. They have to get back in the labyrinth in order to get back to camp is kind of the only method they can go with right now.
Yeah, I think it might be just some plot convenience, because at the end of the Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson does get on a plane and with the bolt and flies back like lickety-split.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. It's totally great. Here it's a little differently because Percy Jackson is falling. And the great thing about Daedalus, you would think like, maybe I should learn how to make wings that won't break on you.
Seriously, though, right? Is this like his one fatal flaw? Is that he's a genius engineer, but he can't make wings to save his life, literally? Like, it always melts no matter what? I don't understand.
Maybe that's supposed to be like an Athena curse. That's like a Athena FU, is you can't make perfect wings. Or I guess that goes with the philosophy of Icarus, where you can be ambitious, but if your ambition is too great, you'll plummet to the ground and splat or fall into the water. Though, you would think it'd be like one of those things where Percy Jackson is like he's falling and he's pretty much like pull up, pull up, pull up. But it's at the very last minute that it happens. Though that's kind of what happens, where they all don't go splat. Rachel's happy, Annabeth is happy. Percy's just traumatized because he hates heights pretty much at this point.
Yeah, and then Annabeth is like, oh, well, these wings won't last forever. Again, don't fully understand why this supposedly great engineer can't make wings that don't melt. I mean, humans make planes all the time and those don't melt. Do you know what I'm saying? I just feel like we have the technology.
We'll even make a point of saying they has like a new adhesive and they're metal wings. They're not made out of feathers.
Right, exactly. So he like, this is his billionth try at making these wings and it still melts, which I don't know.
Or maybe they were just like joke wings. Like someone's going to be an idiot one day is going to try to use
novelty
these wings.
wings.
Yeah, novelty wings. It's like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure with like his boomerang bow tie. It's just there to be stupid but awesome.
Maybe. I don't know. That's like a good take on Daedalus, is he's just like a wise guy who has a bunch of tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, that's exactly like he's the person who's like the old-timey muskets that are all loaded for some weird reason, and he just has a pair of awful wings that he purposely made to be terrible.
I'm just gonna go with that he, I guess, is somehow fated to always make wings that don't work, because that seems to fit with the stuff we know about him.
Well, it makes sense in the narrative of Percy Jackson. If the wings worked, Percy Jackson would have no danger. But once again, we have this thing in Percy Jackson where history is doomed to repeat itself.
Right. Then also, yeah, he would, plot-wise, he would just, like, glide to Camp Half-Blood or something, you know?
Well, not even that. It just adds more tension to it that kind of, like, repeat the myths. True. Because Sea of Monsters, all it is just the Odyssey. And you have, even in Titan's Curse, of just lifting up the sky and the universe, Percy had to do it. So if he's going to put on the wings of Icarus, they have to break on him.
Right, they have to follow the story.
Yes, basically. Which is weird. It's like this weird thing in the universe where no matter what they do, the stories will just keep on repeating themselves, no matter what you do.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be like a theme in general in Percy Jackson, is that these stories repeat themselves and some of the details change, but there are certain key things that always happen regardless of the circumstances. So I guess that's kind of the point that the book is getting at. I don't know. Again, just thinking about it logistically, I don't really understand why Icarus
Or history is just doomed to repeat itself
no,
no matter what you
Icarus,
do.
Well, I guess technically Icarus's wings, but I don't understand why Daedalus keeps making messed up wings when he's supposedly like a really clever guy. But you know how it is. I couldn't do better making wings.
They have to be perfect. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Making the same thing over and over again until you expect a different result?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, he is supposed to be a little bit bonkers from what we know about him, so...
I'm going to keep making wings while this elf over here keeps trying to be a dentist. It doesn't even take a scarecrow to tell him that he has no brains.
Yeah, exactly. He is alive, though, as evidenced by the fact that they do find another entrance to the labyrinth.
Define alive. I mean, being a robot and having, like...
Okay, this is gonna get all philosophical. What I mean is, whatever automaton he's in, his life force is still alive in something, because it's sort of established in this chapter that if they had effectively killed him or whatever, then the labyrinth may have just, like, collapsed in on itself because they were sort of tied to each other. That's how he was able to stay alive.
And also, Nico would have known if he was dead, because that's one of his creepy powers now.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's one of his spooky dead boy powers, is he knows when someone dies. Which, conveniently, that was the first thing I thought of when he says, here's the line. "How can you be sure?" I asked. "I know when people die. It's this feeling I get, like a buzzing in my ears. What about Tyson and Grover, then?" Nico shook his head. "That's harder. They're not humans or half-bloods. They don't have mortal souls." So that's sort of a very convenient plot point. There's a lot of convenient plot points in this chapter, that if Nico could just know when someone dies, then we could just sort of have more of a peek into what's happening with Tyson and Grover. Again, that empathy link is still there. Don't know why Percy hasn't used it. I don't know why it hasn't come up. You would think it would. He's so concerned about what's happening with Grover. Nothing, nada, not any sort of information.
Well, they've talked about last chapter, it just doesn't work. They don't know where he is. They don't know where they are. They just know that they're in danger. The only person that has given them any information is a spooky guy in a coffin.
Yeah, the only guess I would have as to why they can't...
Because it's called plot convenience.
Well, plot convenience, but trying to, like, think of the plot justification would probably be, I guess, the labyrinth messes with the empathy link. That's, like, the only logic I could think of right now.
If only Percy Jackson brought a string with 2 tin cans attached to it, maybe that might be more effective than an empathy link. Even with, like, Nico's weird powers, I like that the dilemma becomes getting back into the maze rather than going back to Camp Half-Blood, because it's easier and faster to go into the maze than it would be to fly or take the road trip back home.
Yeah, also, not that interesting. We want to go back into the labyrinth. That's kind of the premise of this book. I think they want to be in that setting more and have more interesting interactions in there. Case in point, when they go back into the labyrinth, they think they're headed towards Camp Half-Blood, and then they start to get a little distracted, and then, as you know, they end up where Luke was, which is at Mount Tam, and a whole bunch of stuff is going on over there.
Yeah, just a big old clusterluck of evil baddie dudes. And
yeah.
even before we even get to Mount Tam, all of them are like, "Oh no, we're stuck in Colorado Springs. However, are we going to get back home? Because there isn't going to be an entrance anywhere near."
Oh, right. This whole weird thing with Rachel Elizabeth Dare, which is like an even weirder detail about her, that she walks up to some guy at who's like a chauffeuring a Lexus that I guess someone rented, and she just mumbles some stuff and the guy seems flustered, and then whoever's renting the Lexus has to get another car because she takes precedence and
she commandeers the car.
I feel like her family must work for the government or something. It must be something like that. They must be either really rich or work for the government, or her parents the frickin' president or something.
Is it gonna be I dated the president's daughter? What was that Disney Channel original movie? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I know that it's My Date with the President's Daughter only because the theme song was just the words "My Date with the President's Daughter" over and over again in the credits, and it's drilled into my cerebellum for the rest of my life. So that's the only thing I remember about that movie.
Okay, if that's true, B, talk about Percy Jackson falling in love with literally the most powerful person in the United States.
Talk about a power couple.
Oh my god.
I mean, I feel like it must be something like that, either political power or monetary power that her family has, because she wouldn't have had like the clout, so to speak, to walk up to some guy and be like, oh, well, we have to commandeer your Lexus away from this tourist who wanted to see Garden of the Gods.
And
Like,
it's even weirder because like the chauffeur's like, oh yes, anything for you, Mrs. Dare.
Weirdly enough, I've been almost in this exact scenario as Rachel Elizabeth Dare, because when I went to Garden of the Gods, it was like for like a memorial thing for my dad, and there were these like buses just for like the firefighter families, and they were like special buses that they treated us like waited on us on hand and foot. So I literally went to Garden of the Gods and then went into like a chauffeured vehicle where I was waited on. So like weird life parallel things where I lived like Rachel.
It's really funny when you think about it because Rachel's this mysterious figure. The first time we met her was at the Hoover Dam. She's just surrounded in mystery no matter which way you put it.
Is Rachel related to me? Like this seemed like an eerie...
I don't know. You don't have blue... I mean, I don't know, B, you don't have red hair, or do you? Oh my god.
No, I don't have red hair.
Like, I come visit your house, and for some reason, like, I open a door, and you're just there with red hair. It's not what it looks.
It's not what it looks like, yeah. I've been dying it this whole time. Could you tell?
I've been shocked. I mean, it goes with the Irish aesthetic quite well.
The old country of Ireland. Yeah, I mean, statistically, Rachel Elizabeth Dare could maybe be related. I don't know. I mean, Dare doesn't really sound like an Irish last name, though, right? O'Dare, maybe.
B, when they came to the United States from Ellis Island, it was O'Dare. Now it went to Dare.
Yeah.
It's like how we went from Sokolov to Sokol. Who knows? It sounds American. And how awesome is it to have the last name Dare like that? My name's Rachel Dare.
Yeah, Dare's the name. Rachel Dare. Yeah.
I like my soda shaken, not stirred. Oh no, it exploded. Why did you do that? I thought it would be cool.
I'd be interested to know, like, when you first read this book, what you thought Rachel's secret was.
Well,
do you remember?
Yes, I do. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I mean, I know you remember what the actual answer is, but did you have any idea?
No, not
when you were
really.
reading it?
It's one of those where the first time I read through this book, I plowed through it. So those weren't the questions that were in my head. I was like, what's happening with Kronos?
Right,
with Percy and Annabeth? It wasn't about Rachel Elizabeth Dare. Like, she grew on me later on. As a character that I really enjoyed, but there are some mysteries in other books where that was kind of like the main focus point. Here, I think it's weird because with this book with Rachel Elizabeth Dare, they keep trying to allude to it, but yet there isn't like a payoff where anyone brings it up yet. It's going to be something probably weird, like they're going to be in the middle of the desert and all of a sudden there's going to be a new Apache helicopter.
Yeah, that she summons. Yeah, I don't know. The only time we really question like Rachel's family life is in, I guess, Percy's own, is it his internal monologue? I don't exactly, I guess the narration is like, and then I thought, why would Rachel be able to convince a chauffeur to just abandon this driver? Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. No one else seems that suspicious about it except for Percy.
Unless she is like part of like the Artemis Fowl family where she's just an evil supervillain. Once again, Rachel Elizabeth Dare is secretly a serial killer. She's just an evil supervillainess.
Yeah. I mean, it must be something like her family has some sort of like powerful something or other. They're famous or they're rich or they're like literally the president. I don't know. I don't know what universe this is also. Like, who's the president in Percy Jackson right now? I have no idea.
I'm guessing it's going to be the president of 2000... Was it 2000? This is 2008, so it would be Obama.
It would be Obama.
Yes.
Is her dad Obama?
Oh no, that'd be the twist of the century, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I have no idea what else it could be other than those guesses.
Those are some pretty good guesses, and the great thing about having a chauffeur is you get a bunch of free snacks and sodas, and they couldn't get into the booze, but they got the snacks and the sodas, and they like went buck wild.
Dude, this made me think of when I went to prom. We took a limo, and this limo guy was so gung-ho about all the different snacks and things, and he was like, you know, we could get you some napkins in your school colors, as if we cared about our school colors. And, you know, we could get you some sparkling lemonade. Do you guys like sparkling lemonade? His honest-to-goodness voice.
Jeez, I didn't even go to prom, but I had a friend that did, and they decided for a fancy dinner, we're all going to go to Taco Bell. So just imagine a limo parked at Taco Bell.
Yeah, I mean, we did the same thing at a diner, and it was really uncomfortable. I was, like, in a evening dress with my hair up and, like, mascara It was weird.
Do you even want to know what I did for prom?
What did you do for prom? Watch a movie, I'm assuming.
Oh, you know me better than anybody. What do you think I was watching?
Back to the Future.
No, I wasn't watching Back to the Future. I was watching Star Wars.
Okay, I was close. Listen, that's a pretty close guess.
Yeah, that's exactly. Even though it was weird because for our prom, it was at the Queen Mary, and that place is spooky haunted. Though the people that I hung out with, who are also big losers like I was, they did the entire time was go ghost hunting.
I mean, that sounds pretty fun.
Well, yes, I guess though I've gone on a couple parties on the Queen Mary, and it's miserable up there. I like it, but it's miserable to have a party up on the top deck. Ugh.
What, because it's cold or what? I don't know.
No, it's just really small because it's the top deck of a ocean liner.
Yeah. Anyway, so they've got the sparkling lemonade.
I like how whatever happens with Rachel Elizabeth there, she has enough, I guess, gusto or money that put this person in like, hey, we'll just keep driving for a couple hours. Maybe we'll find something eventually.
With no rhyme or reason, yeah. Like, it's an emergency, but also I don't have any specific location in mind. Just kind of, drive around.
And the weirdest thing about this, though, is that she never hands the guy any money.
No, yeah. He just kind of pieces out. He's, like, really nervous that he has to immediately help her, I think. Like, he's just sort of, like, at a loss for words. Through whatever means Rachel is able to convince this guy to just aimlessly drive around Colorado Springs, and then I guess they head towards somewhere else in Colorado.
B, they were heading towards Denver, but I like how they're just driving on the freeway, and Rachel's like, turn here really quickly, as if the car's about to like flip over, and they get off, and pretty much they find an entrance like lickety-split, because Rachel has that maze seeing eyes. She's the real maze runner in the situation.
Yeah, for some reason she's able to see like the Daedalus's mark from a mile away, and Percy's confused about it, even though we've established she has kind of a magical power in being able to see the direction to go in the labyrinth. So,
B, not only could she spot the mark of Daedalus, but she could also spot that they're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
She looks with her special eyes.
Yes, she does.
Did you see that thing where they tried to calculate like how big Legolas's eyes would have to be able to see that as far as he does, and they would just have to be like enormous satellite dishes?
Well, to be fair, Orlando Bloom has beautiful, beautiful eyes.
Yep.
But though there are details, if I'm going to go into like a Lord of the Rings rant, if you watch the part where they're trying to head up on the snow, I forget which part's in the first movie where Saruman's trying to call an avalanche down. Legolas is not actually stepping on the snow. He's actually so light-footed that he's not even touching the snow. He's not sinking in the snow whatsoever.
Relatable.
Yes. Sorry about that. But so they get back into... Fun fact. But they get back into the maze. And this is where things become super terrible because they think they're going the right way, but they technically did go the right way because this is like Scooby-Doo where they have to split up and search for clues, but normally it ends up terribly.
Yeah, well, they find an exit out of the labyrinth, but it's kind of the wrong exit, and Rachel's pretty aware.
I knew we shouldn't have took that turn in Albuquerque.
Well, it's kind of funny to have the combination of Rachel and of Nico, because Rachel's like, don't go in there, I think it's probably bad, and then Nico's like, I sense death, and it's just really everyone around him is telling him that it's not a good place to go.
It's the pep talk of the century, really.
Yeah, and then, of course, we realize that it's Luke's base camp, and who do we spy? None other than good old Nathan Nakamura, the backstabber, is basically what we should call him from now on.
You mean Stabby McStab backstabber?
Yeah, he's pretty distrustworthy.
B, who knew that a guy that looked evil, has an evil eye patch, and has an evil attitude would be evil?
Okay, eye patches aren't inherently evil, but this dude's eye patch is evil. Maybe not evil, but he just sort of doesn't really have any alliances. We'll find out a little bit more about him later in the chapter.
Well, he also doesn't have depth perception, but that's a different point.
Yeah, that's true. That makes it a little bit difficult to stab you in the back. It's like, oh, sorry, I stabbed you in the shoulder.
Oh, man. Not to, like, put on blast people with, like, eye patches, but you guys are kind of cool, but also either you're a pirate, evil, or really, really bad mother trucker.
It's true. Those are the three. Either way, it's very difficult to play baseball.
Or the best way to play baseball. There's nothing in the rules that say you can't have spiritual energy in your eye socket. Haven't you seen angels in the outfield?
There's nothing in the rules that you can't use a giant celestial bronze / steel scythe to hit the ball.
Oh, yes, because as they're going through the maze, they realize, because Percy Jackson's like, you know what? Let me do this by myself. Again, Percy Jackson, last time this happened, nearly died. Just staying.
Well, he's not exactly known for being cautious.
No, he's kind of like me. He just like goes into situations. Maybe it might work out. Maybe not. Who knows?
At least he puts on Annabeth's hat. That's like the only thing he has going for him is that he's invisible during all of this. But it's a pretty ill-advised detour.
Well, Annabeth insists that he puts it on because she's the worrying mom at this point. Did you pack your snacks? Here's my invisible cap, just in case you get lost.
This is like a pretty creepy scene he oversees because there's Ethan and there's like the little telekine. I don't exactly know how to
Telecane?
Whatever.
I think it's called.
The creepy seal creatures.
Audiobook people, please correct us. At
Whatever.
this point, I feel like at this
They're
point.
there and they're talking about like sanctifying the scythe with blood and like dedicating their lives.
No, my favorite part about it is like, hey, be careful, don't touch the scythe because it might separate your soul from your body.
Yeah, just touching it will separate your soul from your body. And he's like, oh, why don't you take off the shroud? Because that doesn't sound great.
B, they had to come to that conclusion because someone accidentally touched that scythe and their soul got separated from their body. Whoops, we lost another one.
Yeah, they went through a lot of telecane to make this scythe. Also, I guess maybe a handful of half-bloods. We don't know how many people had to sacrifice themselves to this cause.
But now we got Spooky Scythe, which in any anime is like 18 feet long, probably looks really cool.
Yep, very unbalanced.
Very unbalanced, yes. We don't have any giant swords in this yet, so I'm waiting for that when they have like novelty sized.
Well, so we find out that Backbiter was made out of Kronos' scythe and that it was then reforged back into his scythe. That's kind of what we learned.
It's more like safekeeping.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the book series, the Stormlight Archive. I'm actually rereading it, and how there's swords in that book called Shard Blades, where if you stab somebody, let's say like you hit them in their arm, just like a little nick on their arm becomes completely useless. And if you actually you puncture the person, like either through their heart or like a fatal wound, it doesn't kill them. It just separates the soul from their body, and it's so cool and weird at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of like how the scythe works. And I guess how Backbiter works too. It's the same kind of logic of the combined steel with the celestial bronze, so it could kill anybody, I think.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about like weapons like this is that they're so powerful, but yet no one just uses them. They don't play that trap card until, oh, here's this magical weapon. We have this atomic bomb.
Well, I mean, Luke already had Backbiter, but I guess now it's like returned to its rightful owner, which kind of makes sense because he's also.
Well, I think like Backbiter's more like a character quirk almost, where like Backbiter's like, well, it's supposed to kill mortals and also like demigods and monsters and all that stuff because my personality is so crazy.
But it's the same thing, right? Because it's reforged, it's made out of Backbiter.
Well, yes, but also when Percy Jackson gets stabbed by Backbiter, his soul doesn't just leave his body.
Right, I guess. So it has to be in like the scythe form and then wielded by Kronos. I don't know exactly the logistics of how it works, but regardless, I guess, I mean, Luke sacrifices everything to Kronos in this. Like he gives him his sword in order to become the scythe, and then he, as we find out when Percy peers into the spooky sarcophagus, then he gives him his body. So it's like a pretty, I mean, it's so hypocritical. Of course, we've talked about this, that Luke was so distrustworthy of the gods and felt like they were taking advantage of him. And here's like the most literal example of like, he's being so taken advantage of. He actually like,
here, you know what? Just take my body. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just, it kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Hey, Kronos, you've kind of like, here's my sword. Did you want my sandwich? You know what? Just take my body while you're at it.
Yeah.
As long as I destroy my dad, I don't care what happens, which it's almost like a comedy at this point where it's like I'm giving too much pieces of me away to the point of where it's like, is revenge really necessary?
Right. This isn't even revenge anymore. Oh, well, I wanted to mention, speaking of revenge, the Ethan is kind of who allows this resurrection to occur.
Ethan does, but we'll get to there because there's a lot that leads up to this because, Percy Jackson does sneak through the creepy maze and goes to the coffin. The first thing he does is kick it open, and it's just like a horror show in there. Like, you would think it'd be more grotesque, but it's like different because it's what you would expect, but not really because he wasn't expecting Luke. But there's sort of description like there's bits of Luke that are like disappeared, like even like there's like a hole in his chest, like really crazy.
Yeah, the description is kind of interesting. He says, I lifted my sword ready to strike, but when I looked inside, I didn't comprehend what I was seeing. Mortal legs, dressed in gray pants, a white t-shirt, hands folded over his stomach, one piece of his chest was missing, a clean black hole about the size of a bullet wound right where his heart should have been. His eyes were closed, his skin was pale, blonde hair, and a scar running along the left side of his face. The body in the coffin was Luke's. Plot twist. Record scratch.
Yes, it is a plot twist, but now here's the thing. Do you think Luke wanted this, or do you think someone forced him to do this? It seems like... I don't think Luke seems like the person that's... I don't feel like Luke is the person that would totally, like, do this willingly. I feel like he's much of a narcissist that he would be like, no, dude, you can have my body. No, that's kind of weird.
The interesting thing is, later on, when they're, I guess... not fighting with Kronos because Percy ends up running away, but like when we encounter Kronos in Luke's body, you can tell that both of them are in there at the same time. It's not just like the shell of Luke with Kronos in him, because there are moments where he speaks and it's just Luke's voice, and there are other moments he speaks where it's Kronos's, so it's kind of like this creepy like dual inhabitant thing. Okay,
so Percy Jackson needs to get a priest, a rabbi, and a good Mormon. They'll do a super exorcism.
Yeah, an elder.
This sounds like a terrible joke, but I'd totally watch like an exorcism movie, like a buddy cop, where it's between a priest, a rabbi, and a Mormon elder, and they're trying to perform a super exorcism. Be a great movie.
I don't know. I don't know if demon possession is so much featured in Judaism, though. Is it?
Yeah, actually, yeah. There's the divot box. There's
Oh, I guess.
There are technically Judaic possessions, but it's really rare, and most of them there's a thing called a divot box. Zach Baggins has one. It's the one that Post Malone accidentally opened up and nearly got himself killed like 16 times. I could totally get into it. I like that trashy stuff, but it could happen.
The more you know. So yeah, basically Luke's body is possessed by Kronos because he's still in there, which is kind of even more horrifying. It's like I have no mouth, but I must scream kind of situation where he's trapped somewhere within the depths of Luke's body, but obviously Kronos is more powerful. His power is pretty well demonstrated when Percy makes himself known, and then Kronos immediately just sort of waves his arm and throws Percy across the room. Like, he's incrementally more powerful than Luke or anybody.
Where have I seen this scene before? I don't know. I'm just waiting for the part where Luke Kronos is just like, I can finally touch you now, Perseus Jackson.
I don't know what you're referencing. You gotta give
Goblet
me
of Fire.
Goblet of Fire. Oh, right. Oh my god. That's actually a reference I could get.
It's the part where you have like baby Voldemort gets thrown into like the burning cauldron with Harry's blood.
Oh yeah, big Voldemort vibes with Kronos, don't you think?
Yeah, a little bit, yes.
I guess I never thought of that, but yeah, it's sort of like if Voldemort pulled if he pulled like a Quirrell thing, but on Malfoy. That's kind of what's happening here.
Kinda, yes, a little bit. But even with the situation, it isn't like Harry Potter, but here's the thing, when you have like your big bad, you either need to have him revealed, like the whole dilemma of the last book would be like dealing with him because he's all powerful. Because you have to have like either the book before that or something has to establish like he's risen back. So then obviously the last book would pretty much be like the end of days at that point, because you need to have, you have your rising action, which is pretty much the whole labyrinth. This is kind of like the peak of it where we realize Kronos is technically back in some capacity. And then we're going to have, our denouement, which would be whatever's going to happen at the end of this book. And then you'll have to have your return to normalcy. And then we get to the next book, and we'll figure it out. Though, do you think this is going to be a problem, or do you think the ending of this book is them trying to kill Luke Kronos?
I mean, I don't think Luke/Kronos is going to die in this book, because we still have a lot of story left, and that's kind of... They've combined the two villains into one villain.
Maybe because that seemed like the problem, that there actually are two villains in this. We'll just make them one. Rick Riordan's just make them one.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of interesting stuff with Annabeth freaking out that, like, Luke is even more irredeemable when he's, fused with the evil god of time who's trying to destroy them all.
It's like a terrible like keyboard kid that is like just angry at everything, gets infused by the soul of Hitler.
Yeah, sort of. It's like an evil kid who like the powers of his evil have a certain limit, and then he's possessed by like the
Hitler.
Yeah, like the most evil person you can imagine, which is in this case Kronos.
Which seems like, if you think about that, just seems hilarious because I feel like he'd be completely useless. I'm going to use computer. I don't know why I have that weird accent, but I mean, it's like there was this movie where Hitler's like frozen and he wakes up, I think in 2014, and he comes back and everyone thinks it's a joke. And I have to remember that movie, but it's on Netflix. I think it's like Now I'm Back Again or something.
Wait, this sounds vaguely familiar.
Like that just seems the exact same type of like comedy. Like Kronos comes back for some reason. He still has he has a mortal body now, so he has a physical form. He's gonna be completely useless.
Important thing about Kronos. He is, or Kronos/Luke, whatever. He's brought to life by the final step being that he needs someone to dedicate their loyalty to him. That's, I guess, what the missing hole in his chest is. That's the one part that...
Well, he needs the last piece.
Yeah, it's the missing piece. And that's where Ethan comes in. He has to sort of dedicate himself. And then Percy, because he's a great big dum-dum, tries to, bust in and pull, an I object and tell him not to do that, which, I don't know why he thought that would work. It's not like he's friends with Ethan. He's just some guy that he met, not even a few chapters ago.
No, that's trying to, talk the guy off, the ledge, even though he just wants to jump no matter what he does.
Yeah, it was ill-advised. I don't know. Percy just can't help but kind of butt himself into these kinds of situations, so then he reveals himself.
The funny thing about Ethan as well is we haven't even talked about this yet, is that he's like, oh, I figured out who my parent is, and it's the most ironic person you could possibly have.
Oh my god, yeah. Then, so he says, Ethan turned toward me, his eye patch blending in with the shadows on his face. His expression was something like pity. I told you not to spare me, Percy. An eye for an eye. You ever hear that saying? I learned what it means the hard way when I discovered my godly parent. I'm the child of Nemesis, goddess of revenge, and this is what I was made to do. He turned towards the dais. I renounce the gods. What have they ever done for me? I will see them destroyed. I will serve Kronos.
See, that just seems weirdly convenient that it's Nemesis.
Of all the people, Nemesis.
So, what type of spooky powers do you get being a child of Nemesis besides pent-up aggression?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you're, really good at betraying people. You're good at being duplicitous.
Man, that seems like such a great quality. Now, here's the thing, though, is, how did Nemesis fall in love with... I don't know. I think Nemesis has technically always been depicted as a girl. Oh man, I really like this hunky man.
Yeah, it's a goddess
who hates people. You know what? Let's just make love, I guess.
Yeah, how would the kid of Nemesis also ever make friends? Because you're the child of Nemesis, my dude.
Okay, that just seems so you're a child of Nemesis, goddess of revenge. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna hang out with you.
Yeah, and you just turn into that Homer Simpson gif of him receding into the bushes. Why would you want to ever be friends with that person? This is kind of a ridiculous reveal. Oh, of course, of all of the godly parents.
No offense, but this seems like the lamest reveal so far in all of Percy Jackson.
Yeah, it's so obvious. Also, we haven't even known Ethan enough for it to really have that much of a gut punch. We've known him for a few chapters in this book, and then they're haha, Nemesis. I'm okay, I barely know Ethan.
And every time we've met Ethan, he's kind of been awful and terrible, and we knew he's just not going to be redeemed.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't even really betrayal. This is him just being his crappy self.
Yes, there's no way around the bush, at least with Nico, is he kind of understood his pent-up aggression, and he's okay now, I guess?
Yeah, there hasn't been any established sort of pathos towards Ethan. He's always been a jerk. He's always, not had any sort of alliance to Percy. I don't exactly understand why Percy thought that he could just bust out of his invisible shield and then try to convince this basic stranger to not dedicate himself to Kronos. It was never going to happen.
It'd be good if Percy Jackson just stabbed him in the face and, it's all done.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to kill Luke now. It's an eye for an eye, right? Clunk.
Yeah, and all he ends up doing is revealing himself to Kronos, and then Kronos, explodes him across the room because he's Kronos, the Lord of Time. He has,
He's got
all the
TikTok
power
abilities.
in the world. It's yeah, exactly. It's ill-advised at best, what Percy does.
And it's hard because even with this chapter, you have this big confrontation, but the whole end result is Percy running away again. There isn't really a big confrontation other than that Kronos has risen back from the grave.
Yeah, the only way he's able to get away is what does Rachel throw? She throws a hairbrush,
which is hilarious.
Which that makes him say ow, which I think is hilarious that you could throw a hairbrush at Kronos and he's like ow, as if that would have any effect.
Well, she's a super mortal. She has a celestial bronze hairbrush. Didn't you know?
I guess so.
There's that, and then Nico basically earthbends, which scratches my head because once again we have this problem again with the big three where they have like these big powers that make no sense.
But they don't use them.
It's like you don't use it. I mean, you would think like a person in a casket, the best thing to do is just put them in stone, maybe summon some spooky skeletons. Nico just has these abilities to literally earthbend now, whereas Percy has the ability to basically make not volcanoes erupt, but he can use like water in any capacity.
Like a geyser.
He can make a geyser. Thalia can like shoot someone with like lightning and pretty much make someone have a heart attack and just die or explode.
We've established this, that I think Rick Riordan, when it comes to magical things, they kind of only function as far as the plot will let them. So the Empathy Link, it's really heavily featured in Sea of Monsters. In here, not so much. I don't know if there's a canonical reason or if it's just convenient for that. Rachel can see through the path of the labyrinth, but only insofar as like they accidentally then get led to where Luke's like location is. I don't know, like they're not infallible with these magical powers and they don't always come in handy. I don't exactly know why. I guess maybe it'd be a boring book if they were just like, oh, well, I guess I'm just gonna like summon another geyser and explode Kronos up into the sky or something, and then Zeus will hit it with a lightning bolt.
Yeah, even with this, though, there's like a weird type of like power leveling in this where people have like superpowers, but then you have people like Hermes or even like Nemesis. Like, what type of powers do they have? It's almost like a joke at times. Or, well, if you're a part of the big three, you can do literally anything.
I'm Nemesis, and my power is
the backstab.
I'm not very trustworthy. Wow.
Hey, would you sign this questionnaire honestly? No. That's my power.
Amazing. So impressive.
And then you have like Ares, which is just, I guess, pent-up aggression. But it's weird because at least in Sea of Monsters, Ares can just summon the soldiers of the dead to give to Clarice. But then...
Right, because he owns the dead people who die in war. Right.
Yeah, but even like I'm saying before, like we had that huge big battle between Thalia and Percy in Titan's Curse. And you kind of see like how overpowered they are, and then you get to Nico, and his powers are like all over the place. Like he can sense dead people, he can summon skeletons, he can earthbend. What else can he do?
Yeah, this is the description of what Nico does. This is how they get away, basically, because no, Nico yelled. He clapped his hands together, and a jagged spire of rock the size of an 18-wheeler erupted from the ground right in front of the fortress.
Again, he can earthbend.
So, yeah, he can pull a friggin' mountain out of the ground, basically. He doesn't always do this. I don't know. That's kind of also what he did with Minos, too, is he sort of, like, opens up the ground, and he's like, I am the Lord of the Ghosts, and, like, screams, and then makes Minos disappear. Like, I guess the only logic behind that is, like, Nico is still getting a handle on his powers, not dissimilar to like when Percy first discovers his water powers when he's Supreme Lord of the Toilet or whatever, how they have these sort of nascent powers within them, but they don't know how to harness them necessarily.
I don't think that's the case because the way Nico is, like the weird thing about Nico is he's a fast learner compared to Percy or Thalia at times, where like he has all these weird powers that Percy, I guess, well, then again, Percy Jackson can, like, talk to fish and horses and stuff, whereas, I guess, Nico can just talk to dead people. Does Thalia get to talk to birds? Hey, bird, what's up?
Thalia can talk to clouds.
Yeah, it's actually, no, that's still water. I feel like Percy Jackson can talk to clouds.
Oh, you're right. Oh, it is still water. You're correct.
I just imagine Thalia trying to talk to a bald eagle and all it's talking about is just freedom and Leonard Skinner. But yeah, you see, like, there's like a lot of dumb powers in the big three.
Right. You don't exactly know when they're going to emerge. Sometimes they're very helpful to the plot, and then they happen, and then sometimes there's just like a sword fight, and you're like, wait, don't you wield water powers? Why don't you use that? I don't know. It's hard to say other than it helps the plot be interesting, because if they did that all the time, then it would be too easy. I guess that's the only reason.
I'm surprised they didn't do secretly that Luke is just Kronos' son. I have time powers now.
Oh, jeez. No, but we already know that he's the son of Hermes.
Well, yes, I know, but like we haven't had that dumb revelation yet where you have like you see what would the son or daughter of like Kronos have? I can turn back your clock and turn you into a baby.
Well, no, but the son of Kronos is Chiron.
Well, yes, but I'm just trying to say like a demigod. If you have like a demigod version, because unless like Chiron can like, hey, I can stop your watch and turn Kronos into a baby.
Turn Kronos into a baby.
Like things like that, but you don't have any of that.
It's sort of like the Nerd Fighters thing of like, oh, I would go back in time. I wouldn't kill Hitler. I'd go back to when he was a baby and put him in the evil baby orphanage.
No. Okay, so there's a really great short story. I think it's called The Time Traveler Blog About Killing Hitler, where it's a little like it's a short story about these people that they're all time travelers and they have like an online forum and they're all talking about killing Hitler. And it's like, oh, I did this today. You have to like take your turn. They have like a queue for, like when they're going to go and kill Hitler. It's like one of the funniest short stories that I've ever read because it's just so great. I'll have to put that in the show notes. It was just really funny. But yeah, you see what I mean though with like these powers, like they're just all over the place and kind of dumb at times.
Yeah, I don't know. You could talk forever about the logistical reasons why their powers work the way they do, or you could just be like, yeah, it probably has to do with plot.
Then again, I'm so used to like reading fantasy books. Like I think my favorite example of this is Brandon Sanderson has some amazing magic systems. I like fantasy books. I like magic systems where there's actually rules in place. Whereas here, the magic system is kind of like loosey-goosey. It's like, yeah, whatever you want. There aren't any like rules. There isn't any like guides to it. It's almost like Deus Ex Machina at times. And that can be okay for like a kid's book.
Can I just say, Daedalus literally is Deus Ex Machina.
Well, he is literally a god of the machine. Actually, wouldn't Hephaestus be that too?
Yeah, you're right. That's what Hephaestus is.
I think a good example of this is Full Metal Alchemist. The whole magic system of that is like equal exchange. Like if you're gonna make something, you have to give something up. Whereas here, there isn't any consequences where Percy Jackson makes a tidal wave or Nico makes like earthbending or
right, and then it's fine.
Yeah, it's just fine. Like it just happens and it's okay. And you see why the big three like kind of went away, but then at the same time, it's like, well, why do the other demigods not have like these superpowers compared to the other ones? I guess yes, they are the big three, but
yeah,
you would
I guess
think
that's the whole point of why they shouldn't have kids, right? Because they're like, you're too overpowered, so you have to be nerfed.
Yeah, but even like you would think that like other people, like the Hermes kids or like I guess Nemesis, that just seems like you get out of like an overpaid parking ticket. I'm going to take revenge on it. But it can be silly because it's like you have these characters that have like these superpowers, but then you have all the other kids. Yeah, we're here. Yay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't exactly know why it works the way that it does. Regardless, it is very helpful that Nico is able to pull the spire of rock out of the ground because they're able to escape Kronos, who's definitely way too powerful for any one of them to fight.
But all of them together, summoning Captain Planet.
Yes, the power of friendship will help them defeat him.
Oh no, they're going to have to get Mati to use hearts.
The most important.
You know, all the great elements. You have air, water, fire, earth, and friendship. What?
The most important element.
Wouldn't the most important element be the element of surprise?
That's true. AH on the periodic table.
Yes. So B, do you want to read the name of the next chapter?
Sure do. Next chapter is chapter 17, The Lost God Speaks.
Well, what does that mean?
I don't know what that means.
Wait, you don't? Are you joking?
Wait, the Lost God. Who's the Lost God?
Listeners, don't say a thing. Don't say a word.
Wait.
I know you're talking, Robert. Don't say it.
Hades?
No, B. It's almost painful.
Hold on. I'm trying to think of the other gods that we've encountered.
It doesn't have to be a god that we've encountered, B.
Right. Well, another god that has been mentioned. Who's a lost god?
Do you want a hint, B?
Sure, I want a hint.
What is Grover's whole purpose in life?
Oh, duh. Okay, right. Now I got it. Okay, I forgot that he was a god.
Oh,
for
do you
a
think
second.
he's just some guy like, hey guys, I'm Pan?
Yeah, okay, right. Yes, Pan is a god. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Oh, so we're finally gonna probably see Grover and Tyson again. I look forward to that. How many chapters do we have left of this book, actually? Because this is chapter
We're
17.
80% way of this book. We're almost done.
Yeah, we're almost done. So I hope we reunite with Tyson. And
Don't worry, they're gonna meet Hades.
Grover.
I'm excited.
I mean,
for
they're
that.
probably not dead, right? Nico can't figure out whether they're dead or alive, but I'm pretty sure they're not dead.
Now, what do you think the Lost God's gonna say if they're gonna find Pan? What is gonna be his important message?
Probably something like, "Wow, you guys are really messing up the earth." Something like that.
There, guys, this isn't Gucci. Stop.
Yeah. Stop being so not Gucci.
Oh my god, I gotta wash my mouth out now with soap.
Yeah. At least that's a reassuring sign that we're gonna see our old friends again, and that they didn't die in the labyrinth, the horrifying, tragic death involving a giant snake.
So, B, do you want to read some emails?
Sure thing. We got a couple listener emails today. First one is from Gideon, who says, "Hey y'all, I'm from Texas and love your podcast. I like Zack and have dyslexia. I have been listening for a while and I'm loving it. Anyway, I decided to make Interruptus. I don't know how you spell that, sorry. And he has a random shirt. So yeah, I love your podcast. Have a good day." And keep staying mortal, smiley face emoji. And oh yeah, you already posted Interruptus on our Twitter.
Yes, and it's super adorable. I love that Interrupt Us. I like how that became like an unofficial mascot for any time someone gets interrupted.
Yeah, Interruptus's teeth are vicious looking in this image.
Well, he has to have a big mouth to interrupt you.
That's true. That makes sense.
You have to have like those weird mouth sounds, just like
No. All right. Well, horrifying. Thank you for sending us fan art. We always love the fan art you send.
I don't think I'm gonna foot you the therapy bill this time. I'm sorry, everybody.
For the noises you just made. Yeah.
For the noises that I made. And future Zach, when he's editing this episode, is gonna start crying in the inside.
All right. So we got one other listener email, correct?
Yeah, B, we actually got one more email. It's from Kaylee and Molly. "Dear Zack and B, it's me again, though I'm not using my previous email. I'm still in the process of catching up on your amazing podcast after my trip to Japan. I'm really glad to finally be able to listen to your podcast again and wish you both a very nice fall season. P.S. I wrote this email and forgot to send it to you, so here it is. Sorry it took so long to send it to you, even though I've been back for almost a month. Also, Zack, if you ever feel like revisiting your Naruto past, then come check out my newly started podcast, The Anime Den."
Oh my goodness.
That's a dark place, a very dark time. Oh my gosh.
Naruto, I haven't heard that name in years.
I haven't, as I like look in my closet, and even though I don't have it, like a Naruto jacket.
You see the glint of the license plate head, is like we called it. I don't actually know what those things are called.
They're called headbands.
Really? That's all they're called?
They're the symbol of the clan that you're in. I don't remember Naruto at all. I can remember some things. I can remember whole arcs, but I can't remember certain things that they're called. Yeah, so maybe check out the Anime Den if you like your Naruto and embarrassing flashbacks. Because for me, man, Naruto and my anime club days are weird. Because I was like looking through some stuff. I had like phone cases. I had some like wall scrolls. Like if I showed you my room circa 2012, 2013, everyone would have thought, "Wow, Zack, you spent money on nothing." Though thankfully, I never bought any figures of anything. So I'm actually excited.
That's a relief.
No, I wasn't one of those people. I couldn't afford figures. I know people that have like huge trophy cases filled with figures. Nothing wrong with that. But that's a lot of money that I don't have.
I think at a certain point, spending a bunch of money on plastic becomes maybe not the best financial decision.
But tell that to the people that invested their entire life savings into Beanie Babies, B.
But Beanie Babies aren't worth anything.
Now they're not.
Almost none of them are. Yeah.
That's what I said before that, B. Before that. That's why the people investing now into Funko Pops.
Did you ever see that picture of the couple dividing up their Beanie Babies? The divorce. It's the funniest.
There's nothing sadder than seeing that and realizing that Beanie Babies are useless now. They're worthless. Except
they went through all that trouble.
Yes, they went through all that trouble, but also I think the most expensive one is the Princess Diane Beanie. I think the most expensive Beanie Baby that still holds its value is the Princess Diane Beanie Baby. How do I know this? I watched a lot of Pawn Stars.
Of course.
What else did I watch? All my trashy pawn shop shows and Storage Wars and Hardcore Pawn, my favorite out of all of those. Oh, man. Thanks so much for that lovely email. You should all check out the Anime Den. I love you all. And I'm going to take a listen, though. Is it going to give me war flashbacks? Probably, and that'll be okay, because I need some secondhand embarrassment for my past self. B, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @bkellygorman, and you can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com.
If you want to tweet at me, you can tweet at me at Suda41, that's SUDA41. If you want to tweet at the show, you can tweet at us at halfblood_radio. If you want to email the show, you can email us at radiocamphalfblood@gmail.com. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/radiocamphalfblood. You'll be able to get episodes early. We're going to be having some bonus content coming up fairly soon. We're just trying to get their schedules worked out. Hey, if you guys are in town on October 19th, we're going to be having a super meetup. We actually have a Facebook group for it, so follow that, RSVP.
Facebook event.
See, I'm an old person, same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, I think we finally got the Facebook event sorted out. It should be correct, and you could be able to see it. I linked it on my Twitter. I think that tweet is pinned, so if you want to find out all of the details about the meetup, you just can go on to B. Kelly Gorman on the Twitters and see my pinned tweet, and you can find it.
If not, be in New York City on October 19th. Be at the William Tecumseh Sherman Monument. Go there about 50 paces. Be there at 3 o'clock when the sun is at its highest point, and I think we should materialize.
Yep, look for the nerds in the orange shirts. You can't miss it.
You can't miss it. You can't miss it at all. Thank you guys for listening to another wonderful episode of Radio Camp Half-Blood. Any advice for the kids back home, B?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I guess read more carefully, because apparently I forgot who Pan was. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Really? Mine is never trust a son or daughter of Nemesis, because they'll stab you in the back.
Oh, that's a good one. That's true. Or possibly your shoulder. The depth perception thing is a little difficult.
Yes. Well, I'm Zach.
I'm B.
And let's keep staying mortal. See ya.
Bye, guys.